Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the championship round of the 2022 Metro Ford Cup Series here with Old Bastard Racing League. We are here tonight at Phoenix Raceway. My name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here today in 1080p, 60 frames a second. I hope you folks are all ready for the action here today, as we're going to go ahead and get right into our starting lineup here today. Josh Robertson, Tom Ogle taking the front row. Dan Hill, Eddie Jones going to be in the second row. Dwayne MacArthur, Michael Watts going to be in our third row. Greg McDaniel, Garrett Cottingham going to be in our fourth row. Dakota Pischke, Al Turner going to be in our fifth row. Lee Warsdell and Daryl Wininger in our sixth row. As we move ourselves just a little bit further on down the grid here, Robert Guarisco, Dean Gear in our seventh row, Joey Buscemi and Lloyd Moore in our eighth row, Jonathan Green, Brian Glass in our ninth row, Chris Walsh, Chris Sidnor in our 10th row, Brian Lindsay, Alan Wanamaker, Greg Hammond, Bert Dodson, rounding out the field here for the start of today's race as drivers make their way out onto the track and get themselves ready for the start of today's race. Pace car is in as drivers get themselves ready for the green flag to drop here for the very first time here at Phoenix. Tom Ogle, Josh Robertson going to be out in the front row here for the start of today's event here. Waiting for that flag to drop here, going to be fighting for this first place spot here in Phoenix. Definitely a very difficult track to manage here tonight. As we go through the Geico restart zone, and away we go for the very first time here today at Phoenix. Drivers off to a very good start here. Double file throughout the majority of the field, seeing a little bit of shuffling happening throughout the mid-pack, and a little bit further beyond that, Tom Ogle now able to shuffle his way from this pack here just a little bit, but still has that of Eddie Jones, Michael Watts, Josh Robinson, I keep saying that incorrectly here, all fighting for positions here. Top three starting to get single file here, as the majority of the field starting to get into their grooves here, finding spots on the track where they can get comfortable in on this mile-long track that we have here today. Looking at the action here between Dean Gear as well as Lloyd Moore in the Wonder 26 machine. Side-by-side action between these drivers as they make their way through turns 3 and 4. And the unique part about this track is the dogleg that you will see just on the exit of turn 4. It is a rather unique aspect of this track and can make this quite the interesting race for drivers here today. But everyone so far looking very calm, very steady, as expected here from the drivers here with Old Bastards Racing League. Expert drivers, phenomenal talent that we see here week in, week out. Now they're all competing. Well, rather a few drivers are competing for the championship here tonight. And Tom Ogle, so far off to a very good start, leading all of the laps that we've seen thus far. But will we see any sort of hiccups or mistakes being made from the 11 machine? I don't think we necessarily will, from the time that I've personally covered races here with Old Bastards Racing League. Definitely phenomenal drivers here that we have in this series, and great action to watch as Dwayne MacArthur, the 83 machine, looking for a little bit of room here underneath Greg McDaniel, and there it is. He's going to try and put his 83 machine just down under, or rather Greg McDaniel around the 77 of Garrett Cottingham there, Dwayne MacArthur in the Bass Pro Shops machine just behind all of that, watching this all unfold here. And drivers opting to stay down here on this bottom lane. Garrett Cottingham going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage there. It seems like opting to stay into these mid lanes, from what I can tell here. So as we continue on here, single file throughout this field, as I've mentioned here already, and drivers all looking for, well, really just trying to stay in it here for these first few stints, or rather the first stint that we'll see here. Drivers are going to be coming down through pit road at some point or another after they burned off, I would guess, anywhere between 75, 85, maybe a little bit more lap-wise, before they come down into the pits. At least from what I've seen in the past here, that might be a little different here tonight. But so far, again, everyone's keeping themselves extremely calm, extremely steady. Clicking off laps here and waiting for opportunities to arise when they do. And frankly, given this track, I suspect that it won't take very long here at all. We're going to get a short ride along here with Dakota Pischke in the number 11 machine. Back here in 11th place at this moment. And my apologies, I meant to say the 1 machine, not the 11. Anywho, anyhow, getting an idea of what a lap is like here at Phoenix with these next-gen Cup cars. And frankly, with the caliber of drivers that we have here, they make it look extremely easy, folks, and I cannot stress enough how difficult this particular track can be. So Dakota here, and as well the rest of the field, doing a phenomenal job of keeping these cars clean and green here. And given this is very early into their stints here, tires are going to be pretty well forgiving at this point. It's when you get to that later half of that stint where the tires start to feel like glass, you're having a hard time getting the car to rotate. It can be a real problem here, especially at such a track like Phoenix where you don't have a whole lot of banking to work with, so the track isn't going to help you in that regard. It's not really going to play any favors to anybody here today. So definitely a testament to each driver's ability to keep their car in the clear here today. And already seeing a driver coming down into the pits. It appears to be Jonathan Green who has come down here. The number 37 machine making his way down into his pit stall here. For one reason or another, I would have to assume it might just be mechanical or something of that nature. Either way, that is only one driver that has decided to take it down a little early, or maybe potentially out of the race here before we see the end here. But everyone else still out here racing. And speaking of that here, Dwayne MacArthur, a little bit of a wobble just a moment ago as Garrett Cottingham might have got a little bit too close to the front end there just a moment ago. But they're going to go back through turns 1 and 2 out of the dog leg. So coming down the back straightaway here, Garrett Cottingham going to stay right on the tail of Dwayne MacArthur here. Going to see if he can take back or rather get back to where Dwayne MacArthur is right now. But so far, not seeing a whole lot of movers, a whole lot of shakers throughout this field. Everyone, again, staying relatively calm, staying within their lane here. Not getting too crazy, not getting too wild early on in this race. And frankly, that is about what I would expect here from these drivers. Going to take things fairly smooth. They're not going to make those big risks for no reason. It's unnecessary. To make those kind of dangerous attempts for a pass or what have you when it's only lap 18 of 152. So these drivers are well aware of what not to do and what to do here in the early stage of this race. And got a little bit of a small battle here between Chris Walsh and Lloyd Moore back here in 18th at this moment. Starting to see a little bit of separation between these drivers, and really where we're starting to see a lot of separation is out in the top three. Between Michael Watts and Josh Robinson, I keep saying the wrong name there, is about a second between those two drivers. And Josh Robinson here is kind of all in his lonesome on the track. He's got about a second between himself and Michael up there in third, but over 2.5 seconds between himself and Dan Hill, you can see in that camera angle there. So not exactly certain if we're seeing potentially, kind of a conservative strategy here this early in the race. Taking things very easy, not cooking those tires off, and don't want to get them super hot for no reason. Again, just trying to keep yourself in the race until the end. That's ultimately the key goal here, I think, for a lot of drivers. And so with this being the championship round of the 2022 Metro Ford Sunday morning Cup Series, Eddie Jones, Dwayne MacArthur, Thomas Ogle, all fighting it out here for the championship. Eddie Jones looking to come home with that championship. Dwayne MacArthur, Thomas Ogle, both going to be fighting it out here to see if they can put Mr. Eddie Jones, the 14 machine, out of contention for that championship and take it for themselves. But there is still a long race left to go. And for Eddie Jones right now, speaking of those drivers, currently sitting in second place here at this moment, looking fairly good out there. And with the separation that he has with not only himself, but to the rest of the field here, you can kind of see them up in that camera angle as they made their way through 3 and 4. But Dwayne MacArthur here back in 7th place, going to have quite a few positions to work his way up. And Thomas Ogle currently sitting third place in that championship battle, if I'm not mistaken here. Currently leading the race here, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough for the points once things are all said and done here. We will have to find out once the race is over, and we will have an official championship result for you once the checkered flag has flown and race control has done its analysis and made sure that everything is a-okay. But so far, I gotta say, even looking back here in the 7th place and beyond, looking at the separation between these drivers in the top 5 is absolutely incredible. Given that this track is only 1 mile in length, it's very fascinating to me just how quickly you can find yourself kind of out of the line, or out of the pace rather, in such a short period of time. And again, this track is unforgiving. It's a very difficult track. It can burn your tires off extremely quickly and can make your race even harder. So these drivers are kind of fighting multiple battles here all at once, and all trying to make the best of it and see what they can do. But drivers that are shining at this moment, Tom Ogle, Eddie Jones, both of these two, again, continuing to lead the field here and dominate so far in this race. But it's still early in these two drivers' stints, and I have to begin to wonder to myself if potentially the long-run speed for these two drivers may be affected. I'm not 100% certain. Again, I haven't seen these drivers race enough to be able to tell you that, but I can say for certain that once you get past roughly the halfway mark in the with these tires, as far as tire wear, it can really start to affect a driver's ability to keep these cars around the track. Just especially with the unique layout of this track in particular, it just makes for things to be rather interesting. But nonetheless, while these two continue to turn laps with one another, just Eddie Jones just trying to keep up here with Tom Ogle, almost about a half a second between these two. So Tom Ogle might start to see a little bit of a break here as Eddie Jones potentially seeing a little bit of that fall off from the tires that I was just mentioning a moment ago. But checking back in here with our top 10. Back here in 11th, Dakota Pischke, traveling along here with Al Turner, Daryl Weininger, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Garrett Cottingham, and Robert Guarisco. All out here, kind of scrapping for positions, just taking it relatively smooth and easy though. And Dakota seems to be looking for something to open up for him here, for Al, in the likes of Al Turner, leaving the door open and giving him some room to work down onto the inside there, getting right up on the bump, well, close to the bumper. That camera angle was a little deceiving, I will admit, but there he is, staying right down on the bottom lane. He's going to stay as low as he possibly can here as well, and still keeping things clean, not getting aggressive with it at all here. That's what we like to see. And you can also see just a little bit up ahead here, the 77, Garrett Cottingham, up on the middle lane, which, you know, judging from what I've seen in past races here at Phoenix, and frankly from the past few laps that I've watched here, it's rather interesting to see drivers taking that middle lane. You definitely get a little bit better exit speed onto that straightaway, potentially here as well. And this might even look like, no, hey, he's definitely using that middle lane to his advantage, trying to slingshot himself almost out of the turn and into the straightaways. Just keeping up his momentum as much as he possibly can. But Daryl Weininger, I think that's probably more correct. Daryl Weininger moving himself up into 8th place here. That's going to move himself up 4 spots total in tonight's race, but that's not even the biggest mover of the race here so far. Brian Lindsay back in 15th in the number 24 machine, currently up 6 spots from where he started in today's race. So lap 35 of 152, I would say just about halfway through our fuel window pit strategy here, before we start to see drivers make their way down into the pits and get themselves a fresh set of good years, as well as some fuel to finish out their next stint. Now, if I'm not mistaken here, this is going to be a one-stop race. Well, I'm going to have to wait and see when these guys actually come down into pit road here, because I might be off on my numbers a little bit. But if I'm not mistaken here, this should be a one-stop race, potentially 2, depending on how things go here. But so far, everything looking calm, steady, smooth, and drivers just seeing little opportunities poke up in front of them and taking them as they go. So Definitely not seeing anyone slacking here. No one is sleeping behind the wheel. Everyone is wide awake and definitely looking for any sort of opportunity to make some passing happen here. And a little bit of a wobble and a wag. Looked to be from, I think that was Garrett Cottingham. Robert Guarisco here having a little bit of that rear end slide out from him. Coming out of 4 there. Keeping it together, though. Lee Warsdell starting to see Joey Bushimi. The number 56 pit boss machine down onto the inside. Going to make this pass up into 13th. So just like that, folks, you know, those small opportunities that you see arise as a driver, you want to take them. If you see the door open and you got the speed and you have the confidence, take it. Just a little bit further beyond that here as well, it looked to be Brian Glass in the 87 Kodak machine looking for an opportunity around Chris Walsh here in 16th at this moment. So trying to move himself up another spot from where he started back in 18th. So taking a look here, kind of towards the, really the outside of the top 4 here. We'll move over to the leader. So this is where Tom Ogle is currently on the track. We're looking from above, from the Phoenix blimp camera that we have here today. And this will give you a pretty good idea of how far Tom Ogle has separated himself from the field. And there is lap traffic. I do believe that is Alan Wanamaker in the number 74 machine that he is about to catch up to at this moment. And Eddie Jones just about a second behind. And Eddie might even possibly be in the mindset at this point to conserve tires, conserve fuel. You don't necessarily want to just chase a driver down just because you want to get that position. Not always the smartest thing to do. Granted, sometimes it can work. You can put the pressure on that driver. You can, rattle their cage a little bit and be able to get them to step out of their line, make that mistake. There you go. Make that pass. Boom. Done. Sold. However, when you have a driver like Tom Ogle, that's not going to happen. You're not going to shake that guy. He's not going to get rattled. He's going to keep doing what he's doing. He's going to ignore you and keep driving. So for Eddie Jones, it's got to be that situation, that kind of split-second decision, like, okay, I need to step back here a little bit. I can still trail him, but I can't be riding his bumper. I can't stay on him like I want to be. Otherwise, I'm going to put myself in a worse situation later. And that goes the same here for Tom Ogle. I mean, if he really wants to, to turn the jets on and go full blast here, he absolutely can. But trying to hold off a driver that's also doing the same here, not always ideal. Not always ideal. It can sometimes hurt you more than help you. So again, just one of those situations where you just got to read the field. You got to understand what's going on and who you're racing against. And sometimes, especially in the iRacing service, you don't have that option depending on where you're racing. But here, when you have leagues and fellow like-minded individuals, that makes things a little bit easier. So tuning along here with Lee Warsdell as Brian Lindsay, the 24 machine, made the pass into 14th at this moment. Brian Lindsay continues to move his way just a little bit further up the field, up into 14th at this moment. So, again, Brian holding that highest mover and shaker award at this moment. So, lap 46 of 152, we're about a third of the way through this race here today. And again, everyone looking extremely calm, extremely steady here at Phoenix. And back here, Garrett Cottingham feeling the pressure from Robert Guarisco in the number 28 machine. Doing a phenomenal job of keeping him off there, not letting him get into him too much here. and try and rattle them up here at this point in the race. And again, I'm expecting in about 20 to 30 laps, we'll start to see drivers make their way through pit road and get a fresh set of tires, fill up on fuel, and that will be, from what frankly, if they pit in the next 20 to 30 laps, then it's going to be a one stop anyway. So regardless of the matter, we're seeing phenomenal racing here from every single one of these drivers. And I got to say, I don't think I've really seen anyone yet that has really got that car to step out on them, or really anything, especially here at Phoenix. I mean, this track, again, has not an easy one, especially when the track's hot, your tires are hot. It can definitely be a real challenge, but these guys just make it look oh so easy. And there it is. Tom Ogle, Eddie Jones, Michael Watts. Ooh, Watts. The 84 Lowe's machine gets a little sideways coming across the line here, the commitment line. That's potentially, I don't know if there's going to be a speeding penalty involved with that one or what the case might be, but that definitely not how you want to enter into pit road, and I'm sure Michael is not going to be too happy about that one when he gets down to the pits. But for Josh Robinson and Dan Hill, this is going to give them the opportunity to lead some laps here at this moment, and really going to start to cue the rest of the field on when to come down into pit road, or at least signal them to start coming down, because it is going to get real spicy here. Now, this could also be a little bit of an undercut strategy from these drivers, as there appears to be a caution actually. So Bert Dodson has appeared to have gotten involved in an incident here. So lap 52, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at that. And when we come back, we're going to have more of the action here. So let's take a look at that quick Team Goon Squad instant replay. Drivers making their way here out of pit road. As now the rest of the field is actually going to make their way down here into the pits as well. Now knowing that they have the time and chance and opportunity to do so, they are going to take full advantage of it, and I don't blame them here at all. And from what I can tell here, Josh Robinson is still going to be our maybe not. Okay, no, I do believe that Josh Robinson is going to be our race leader here. Dan Hill in second, Greg McDaniel in third. Those will be our top three here going into this restart. And the lights go off on the pace car, so lap drivers are going to make their way around the field, get the wave around here. Quickly make their way back to the tail end of the field and get ready for this next restart here with Josh Robinson and Dan Hill. Up in the front row, Greg McDaniel, Daryl Winninger in our second row. Dakota Pischke and Al Turner in our third row. Pace car is in. Through the Geico restart zone we go, and the green flag will drop here once again. Onto the straightaway, heading into turn number 1. Josh Robinson with a very good lead here. Keeping himself up ahead of the rest of the pack at this moment, but Dan Hill's the driver to worry about for him at this moment, almost 3 wide. Here as we go through 3 and 4 and through the dog leg and across the checkered line. Oh, contact though. The 99 of Lee Warsdell. Right out of turn 4, going through the dog leg. Lee Warsdell. A little bit of a problematic issue here, as I do believe that will bring out another caution here and get the field restacked, but I don't think we're going to need a replay on that one, as that was pretty well straightforward. Some drivers going to take the opportunity to come down into the pits, perhaps to work out some damage. Some of these drivers were involved in that little bit of contact there. I do believe so. Some drivers might be looking to get some damage worked out to their cars here. Other drivers might be looking to replace the other set of tires. Some drivers, when they come down into the pits, they'll only change maybe the right side, or maybe they'll change all 4, just depending on how that certain driver is feeling at that point in time. So I do believe this time the lights will go off on the pace car. And drivers are getting lined up double file here, so that means it is 1 lap to go before we see the green flag drop here. Once again for these drivers, and hopefully give them a little bit of a longer run this time around, although that was a small mistake from Lee Warsdell. And not even really, potentially not even that much of a mistake, but just the track surface, the tires being cool, so on and so forth. But they were getting a little warm at that point, so a lot of different combination of things in that scenario. But either way, Lee Warsdell still out here racing. Going to be back towards the tail end of the field, starting along with Alan Wanamaker for 17th and 18th. But as we come out of turn number 4 through the Geico restart zone, green flag drops here, and we go back to green flag racing here at Phoenix for the championship round of the 2022 Metro Ford Sunday Morning Cup Series. Josh Robinson trying to hold on to that lead that he restarted out with before we took to this caution, and still doing a phenomenal job keeping himself up there in the lead, not letting the pressure get to him. A little bit further back, we have drivers scrapping side by side for positions, getting a little bit close there for Dakota Pischke in the number 1 machine to the tail end of Daryl Winninger. As we come across the checkered line back in through the short straight, or rather the dog leg, heading back into turn 1. Drivers definitely turning up the heat here, as they are now going to be just about halfway through the race here and looking for opportunities to get up the field here. Trouble for Alan Wanamaker in the number 74 machine as he gets a little bit loose. That is definitely going to be a very hurt race car here for the 74 of Alan Wanamaker. That left front tire is definitely not going to be functioning properly here after a hit like that. He's going to drop it down into the pits and get that machine repaired. Still racing, though, on the track as green flag is still out. Trouble for Michael Watts, the 84 Lowe's machine. Sideways and spins it around, and more trouble. Michael Watts with a little bit of the slide there, and I'm not sure who blew past him. I believe that might have been I'm not even sure who that was there, though, but wow. We're going to go ahead and take a quick look at that replay there as drivers going to make their way down into the pits here. We'll be back in just a short moment. So taking a look here at Bert Dodson in the number, oh boy, 59 machine. We also see the 26 getting a little bit loose here, and up into Bert Dodson he goes, and that's what's going to cause the contact there. 26 of Lloyd Moore. Not going to be able to escape from that one here as well. Almost making contact there with the number 10 of Dan Hill there as well. Very, very close to making that situation a lot worse. In a very unfortunate situation for Bert Dodson. We can see drivers making their way out of pit road here. Getting themselves back on track after this caution. Gonna get back on track here with a fresh set of tires, as well as, I'm assuming, filled up on fuel. Looks like most drivers have taken fuel and tires. So drivers going to be looking for a long stint on this restart, I would have to imagine. And I take back what I said earlier about a one-stop race. That was entirely inaccurate. So the field going to remain mostly in their same spots as where they restarted in last time around. However, few drivers have swapped around here. Josh Robinson, Dan Hill remain your leaders in the front. Greg McDaniel, Robert Guarisco in your second row. Daryl Winninger, Joey Bushimi in our third row. Eddie Jones, Tom Ogle in our fourth row. Brian Glass, Dean Gear in our fifth row. Dakota Pischke, Brian Lindsay, Chris Walsh, Lee Warsdell, Michael Watts, and Bert Dotson round out the field here as the base car is back in. And the green flag drops here once more at Phoenix Raceway. Josh Robinson continuing to hold that bottom lane, trying to get away from this field here. A little bit of battles happening towards the mid-pack and beyond. Drivers all scrapping for positions, trying to see what they can do here. Side-by-side action happening between Tom Ogle as well as Robert Guarisco. As well here between Joey Bushimi and Brian Glass for just a moment. Glass going to back off in the 87 Kodak machine. Let this brew on here for a little bit. Drivers mostly going to fall single file. But Brian Glass here seeing the opportunity to go up on the outside of Joey Bushimi here. I'm not certain. There is definitely some speed in that Kodak machine right now, and boy, oh boy. I'm more than certain that Joey Bushimi right now is feeling the pressure behind him right now. Here, as we're going to get a little bit of a look out the rear view of that number 56 machine, and you can see Brian Glass trying to do all that he can to get a good line, get a good run out of these turns here, trying to do everything in his power to really try and get Joey to give him some room here. But I don't think Joey has any intentions of letting that happen, as Brian is continuing to apply the pressure, but Joey does not seem to be too fazed by it. Good pack of action here between these drivers, as Michael Watts is back up here rejoining the action with his fellow top 10s well, fellow drivers here rather, after his little bit of a debacle just a few laps ago, bringing out that last caution. Back up into 11th at this moment and trying to work his way around Brian Lindsay in the number 24 machine, and there he does. Oh boy, almost door to door, literally, with the 24 machine, but keeping it off the doors just by about a foot. They continue to press on between one another, trying to scrap for that position. As the rest of this field, again, they're getting back into the single file groove, trying to get a good run going for themselves, as everyone came down through the pits, got a fresh set of tires, got fuel, and they're now ready to conquer this next roughly 50 laps before they come back down into the pits. So I would have to imagine about lap 110 to 120, they will come back in here as the 15 makes contact. Oh, with Joey Bushimi. Joey making that initial contact there to the left rear quarter panel of the 15 of Daryl Winninger. Getting him a little bit sideways, and I would have to imagine that's going to bring the caution out here and rack and stack the field once again. So now with the field having gone through the pits here, getting themselves ready for their next restart here, and some drivers, I do believe, having, come down through the pits, well, majority of the field rather, coming down through the pits here again, getting fuel and tires. And if I recall correctly, drivers here with Old Bastards Racing League are allocated as many tires as they possibly need for the race here. So there is no limit on tires. They can grab as many as they want, which, frankly, I think just makes the racing a lot better. For these restarts, having certain situations where, perhaps cautions breed cautions. That is something that does happen. You can mitigate that a little bit by giving drivers, fresh sets every time, or close to every time, every 30, 40 laps if that is the case. Gives drivers an opportunity, to have a fair restart, so to speak. The lights are off on the pace car. And driver's going to be ready for the green flag to drop here once again. 70 laps left to go here at Phoenix. Into the Geico restart zone. The green flag will drop from the flag stand here once again at Phoenix Raceway. Josh Robinson, Eddie Jones going to be up in the front row. Greg McDaniel, Tom Ogle going to be in our second row here, trying to scrap 4 spots, 3 wide as we go through turns 1 and 2. Greg McDaniel looking for all that he can here in the number 30 machine as he comes out of 2 onto the back straightaway. Coming into turn number 3. A little bit more action happening behind these drivers here. Greg McDaniel going to be probably pretty pleased with that move. Quite a risky one, but it seems to have paid off here, and I spoke too soon. Greg McDaniel, as well as another driver, getting a little bit loose, and they make contact. The 24 machine of Brian Lindsay getting loose on his own here as well. Going to find himself in the side of Greg McDaniel. And I don't know if Greg McDaniel is going to have a survivable race car after that one. As I seem to have pulled the trigger a little bit too early on the caution. There is no caution. Surprisingly enough, we are still racing here at this moment. So after that little bit of an incident for Brian Lindsay and Greg McDaniel, wow, that is going to be a tough break here for those drivers. But continuing on here with the action. A little bit of side-by-side action happening between Chris Walsh as well as Garrett Cottingham, almost door-to-door between the two, and contact to the wall for Chris Walsh here in the Jim Beam 63 machine. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast, just a little bit ago rather, is that these drivers have definitely started to turn things up here and are ready to kick things off and try and finish as high up the field as they possibly can. And Lee Warsdell here in the 99 Miller Lite machine, seeing Dean Gear down on the inside, making the pass across the checkered line, back through the dogleg, and heading into turns 1 and through 2 now. Brian Glass here with some real momentum here in the 87 Kodak machine, and we've seen that here in this kind of later stage of the race. Brian Glass really showing the pace here out of that 87 machine, and he's already moved himself up 11 spots actually from where he started at the beginning of today's race. So definitely knows what he's doing here at Phoenix, and oh boy, getting right up on the bumper there of Dan Hill in the number 10 machine. I think if Brian Glass was up at the front right now, he would definitely have a pretty good run here. But lap 91 of 152. Laps are slowly being ticked off here. Next time across the checkered line, it'll be 60 laps left to go, and Eddie Jones, the number 14 machine, looking to come home with that win here tonight. And with that win, potentially the championship with it here as well. And Tom Ogle also fighting to put himself up there in contention for that spot. And right now, doing a phenomenal job of keeping himself up here with the action. And just trying to keep himself from falling too far behind that number 14 machine. Because again, as I mentioned, well, drivers all having come in lap 79 during that last caution, I would have to imagine that they're going to have to come in again. But it's going to be practically when there's 20 laps left to go, if I'm not mistaken. So while we have a moment here, we're going to go ahead and ride on board with Garrett Cottingham here for a little bit. And let's take a listen to the sights and sounds here at Phoenix Raceway. A good look of a few laps here at Phoenix Raceway. That was along with Garrett Cottingham, currently sitting in 10th place at the moment, in the number 77 machine. And so far, lap 100 of 152, everyone continuing to look strong here on this stint, and looking, I'm guessing at this point about lap 120 is when we're going to see these drivers come down into the pits. Excuse me, lap 130. So still a ways to go. And potentially, I don't know. I really don't want to say this for certain, but could potentially see some drivers try and stick it out a little bit longer, but I really don't see that happening here at this moment. It definitely does not seem like the race to do that. The championship round, definitely not the race that you want to be making huge risk for. Well, maybe not. Maybe you are in the mindset that it's make it or break it. But so far, everyone here is racing fair and racing competitively at that. As we're watching Robert Guarisco and Dan Hill. Battling it out side by side. And again, I mean, this middle lane here, I can't really say for certain if it's working or not for some drivers, because it seems to be for Robert Guarisco here in the number 28 machine, as he's continuing to hold that lane and really keep that momentum up. The only thing that you really have to worry about, excuse me, is making contact with that wall on the straightaway. Definitely something you have to look out for and be very attentive of. But Robert seems to know what he's doing. Staying up there on the outside lane and continuing to hold it here, despite the opportunities to be able to get down to the bottom, albeit not in front of the number 10 machine, which is ultimately, I think, what Robert is trying to do here. A little close there from the front end of Robert's machine to the tail of Dan Hill's. But ultimately steering clear of that contact and keeping this race green and clean. Just under 50 laps left to go here. The action in the back of the field really hasn't changed much at all. And oh, whoa. Contact from Dan Hill and Robert Guarisco. I'm not sure if that was a checkup or if he just overdrove that turn and had to slow down at the last moment, but wow. Avoiding catastrophe by mere inches. And with that, I mean, while all of this has gone on, these drivers have separated themselves. Nearly 6 seconds from the rest of the field. Oh, but the action continues to get spicier here for the mid-pack as, man, oh man. You have Joey Bushimi, the number 56 machine, trying to get himself back up onto the lead lap here, as close to it as he possibly can. And Chris Sidnor here having a little bit of a moment here in the number 29 machine. I'm not sure if a caution is going to come out for this one, as he is right down here in pit road. It appears to be that we are going to stay green flag here. Lee Warsdell, the 99 car, having a little bit of a moment here in the 99 machine. And the Miller High Life car, again, yeah, right in the same spot that we just saw Chris Sidnor have a moment in. But ultimately, we're going to stay green here. So lap 113 of 152. Again, I'm still expecting some drivers to want to make their way down into the pits here before too long. Get a final set of tires as well as fuel before the checkered flag flies here. Currently watching the action between Josh Robinson as well as Michael Watts for the third place spot, as right now Eddie Jones and Tom Ogle, they've created nearly a second and a half between not only each other but the rest of the pack here. So these two drivers going to be relatively comfortable at this point in the race, but still anything can possibly happen even this late in the race. Riding on the roof camera here with Al Turner in the number 76 machine, currently sitting 9th at this moment. It's getting a little bit of a different perspective here on the racetrack, seeing what it's like maybe from if you were riding on the roof of one of these cars. And this gives you a really good idea of how little banking there really is here at Phoenix. It doesn't give you a whole lot to rely on to be able to turn that car. A little bit of a wall scrape there from Chris Walsh in the 63 machine. Work here from Al Turner, just trying to keep himself up here with Chris Walsh and really trying to see if he can get a line down on the inside and be able to make an opportunity for a pass here. And here he goes through the dog leg. And I think that opportunity has come as, man, Chris Walsh here, the 63, just few wall scrapes, few wall bangs, and that's enough to slow your car down. Enough to let your opponents pass you, and I'm sure Chris is going to be fighting himself for that one, trying to keep that car in order. Garrett Cottingham here looking for an opportunity as well to move up a spot, as he's looking down on the inside lane here as well, in and around Chris Walsh here into 9th place. Currently the closest battle that we have on track at this moment, as we are just about 25 laps left to go here. Tom Ogle starting to see a little bit of pressure here, potentially from Josh Robinson. And the number 23 machine currently sitting 3rd at this moment. Trying to creep his way towards the tail end of the 11 machine, and slowly but surely, the number 23 is making his way towards the tail end of Tom Ogle. So again, I'm not sure if we're going to see any drivers kind of make a final pit stop here before the end of the race. And frankly, it's a bit of a gamble here, potentially, as the first time that we saw drivers come through pits was about 50 laps into the race. Now, that makes me wonder if, based on fuel, that's only how far they're able to make it, or if that's just where the leaders decided it was a good time to come into the pits at that point. But we're about to find out here as 26 laps left to go on the top left of our screens here. Daryl Winninger here trying to make a line or make a pass here around Robert Guarsco for that 6th place spot here, as it's now a mad dash to the checkered flag. And it's really getting down to the wire here for drivers to make up spots where they can. And at this point in the race, it's going to be tough to make spots if you're not already trailing behind a driver. And right now, Eddie Jones starting to see that gap start to close a little bit. As Tom Ogle, Josh Robinson all start to work their way towards the tail end of Eddie Jones. Daryl Winninger here still trailing behind Robert Guarisco, trying to see if he can make some moves happen as, again, Tom Ogle trying to close the gap here on Eddie Jones and Josh Robinson as well, trying to see if he can crack his way even further into the top 3, down onto the inside. Going through 3 and 4 and out of the dog leg and across the checkered line, back into turn 1. And with 20 laps left to go, I don't know, folks. I'm thinking here that these drivers are going to try and hold it out to the end. Eddie Jones feeling the pressure here from Josh Robinson. Robinson down onto the inside in the 23 Micro Center machine. Gonna take the lead here with 19 laps left to go. Eddie Jones trying to see if he can scrape up some extra horsepower out of that 14 T-Rex Games machine. I'm not sure that he will be able to. He's taking a little bit of a wider exit there out of 4. But now Eddie Jones, in this scenario, all he's got to do is hold off Tom Ogle. And he's going to take it home for the championship. Josh Robinson going to be looking to take home a win here tonight, given the pace and the patience from the 23 machine here tonight. Some drivers still scrapping it for positions in the mid-pack and beyond, with 17 laps left to go. Not much time left here for the drivers out on track. And for Eddie Jones, who's looking for that championship, not much left to go here. But still chances for Tom Ogle to be able to get up ahead of him and potentially put him out of that championship spot. But Eddie Jones looking very strong here at the moment. And Tom Ogle starting to see a little bit more momentum coming out of that 11 machine, as he's now starting to catch up to Eddie here. With 14 to go, going to be 13 once Josh crosses the line. It does appear that we have a caution here. As Michael Watts and Daryl Winninger are going to be involved in this one, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at that replay, and we'll come right back to the action. Taking a look here at the incident from Michael Watts. Oh boy, gets a little bit loose and into the side of the 76 machine, and oh man, that's going to send him spinning around down to the bottom of the track, and another driver getting a little bit loose there as well. And Michael Watts going to have to get himself recorrected back on track. All right, folks, as the lights go off on the pace car, the lap cars are going to make their way around the field, getting the wave around. Josh Robinson, Eddie Jones going to take up the front row. Dan Hill, Al Turner going to be in our second row. Dakota Pischke, Chris Walsh going to be in our third row here on this restart. Only 9 laps left to go here for these drivers as the pace car makes its way down into pit road. Green flag drops here once again for what I will assume to be the last time here today, the last chance to dance here for these drivers. 8 laps left to go. Eddie Jones going to be up in the front of the field. He's going to have the lead at this moment side by side between Josh Robinson, Dan Hill. As they come out of turn 2 onto the straightaway, heading into turn 3. Side-by-side action happening in the mid-pack here at this moment. Drivers scrapping for positions, trying to get up as high as they possibly can for the end of the race here today. Oh, sideways here for Garrett Cottingham. The 77 goes below the line here, down to the bottom of the racetrack into the wall. And the caution will come out here yet again. Here at Phoenix Raceway. I suspect a little bit of commentator's curse involved with that one. Garrett Cottingham here in the number 77 machine just gets a little bit loose on his own here. Getting that car just a little bit too sideways and down to the bottom of the track into the wall here in the final few laps. Garrett Cottingham here across the line with Tom Ogle. Oh boy, Michael Watts a little bit loose and trying to get around that and into the wall and boom. Nowhere to go there for Garrett and man, nothing he could have done in that situation. Lights are off on the pace car as we get ready to go back to green flag racing here with 3 laps left to go. This will be the last chance to dance for these drivers. Through the Geico restart zone we go. The green flag drops. And across the checkered line, 2 laps left to go. It's the final time for drivers to make an attempt to make a pass here. Dan Hill battling it out here with Eddie Jones side by side for the lead here. Eddie Jones going to come out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. Ahead of the pack here at this moment, Dan Hill, Josh Robinson going to be side by side here for the battle for second place. Through 3 and 4, through the dog leg. And across the checkered line, back into turns 1 and 2. White flag is out. There's contact in the back of the field here between Tom Ogle. Michael Watts and Garrett Cottingham. But we stay racing here. This is the final lap, the final chance for drivers to make something happen here. Eddie Jones going to try and keep himself up ahead of the pack here. The checkered flag is out as we go through the Geico restart zone. And across the checkered line, it's going to be Eddie Jones for the win. Dan Hill just barely in second, and Josh Robinson coming home in third. What a race that we had here today. And what a championship. And here are our post-race results. Eddie Jones coming home with the win. Dan Hill in second. Josh Robertson in third. Al Turner in fourth. Dakota Pischke in fifth. Chris Walsh in sixth. Dale Wininger in 7th, Robert Guarisco in 8th, Tom Ogle in 9th, Greg Hammond in 10th, Dean Gear in 11th, Bert Dodson in 12th, Lee Wardsell in 13th, Michael Watts in 14th, Garrett Cottingham in 15th, Joey Buscemi in 16th, Lloyd Moore in 17th, Brian Glass in 18th, Brian Lindsay in 19th, Chris Sidnor in 20th, Greg McDaniel in 21st, Alan Wanamaker in 22nd, Dwayne MacArthur in 23rd, and Jonathan Green in 24th. That is going to round out our post-race results here, and congratulating Eddie Jones on winning the championship here for the 2022 Metro Ford Cup Series. What a season that we had, and congratulations once again to Eddie Jones on taking home that championship and rounding it out. Well, that is going to conclude our coverage here for tonight's race and for the championship and for the end of the season. Thank you all for tuning in and watching, and we hope to see you again next season. Make sure you tune in and watch. Same time, same place. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.